Добродојдовте во новиот подкаст на М6, серија од подкасти во кои се обидуваме да отвориме теми кои се интересни за бизнисите од различни аспекти, но се интересни за граѓаните во секојдневното живење. Денеска ќе говориме за една многу интересна тема, а тоа е Neuroscience или Neuromarketing и начинот како тој може да се искористи во лидерството, образованието и во генерално во маркетингот. Во денешниот свет во кој сме пренатрупани со информации, каде што информациите се многу достапни, свет во кој компаниите се обидуваат да дојдат до своите купувачи, да го наметнат својот производ или услуга и да го променат однесувањето на купувачите, ова е посебно важно. И затоа денеска со нас во овој подкаст на Чекор напред со М6 го имаме нашиот гостин Nikolaos Dimitriadis. Hello, Nikolaos. Good morning.
Good morning.
It is a pleasure to have you here, and thank you for finding time to be with us. You are over 20 years actually in this field of neuroscience, neuromarketing, linking neuroscience with leadership, education, and especially with marketing. Neuromarketing actually is very important today because, as I mentioned in the intro, companies are trying to shape consumers' behavior in favor of their products and their services, and in this sense neuroscience is helping a lot how you communicate the messages to your consumers. So in simple terms, let's say, how would you describe what is neuromarketing, neuroscience, and what is the difference between psychology, let's say, and neuroscience, because they are very closely related?
So first of all, thank you very much for having me. Indeed, neuroscience is a rather new science compared with others, because it was in 1969 that the American Neuroscience Association was formed, and it is a collective science that combines biology, genetics, neurology, psychology, and other science in order to study the brain, your nervous system, your body, and how these react with and interact with the environment in order to have operational and a successful life, right? So that's about neuroscience. Now, the difference between neuroscience and psychology, it's a great question, and I usually approach it through the words. So if you think about what psychology means, it's a combination of two words: psyche, which means soul, and logos, which means talking or understanding. So it's actually the understanding of the soul. While neuroscience also has two words: neuron and science. So if you compare the two, you will find very interesting differences. While psychology speaks about psyche, soul, which is something intangible, something ethereal, something that you cannot grasp, something that it is not objective, something that it is not of this world, neuroscience talks about neurons, and neurons are specific cells in your brain and in your body. Also, psychology says logos, so talking about it, while neuroscience says science, really using scientific methods to reveal what is there. So the difference between psychology and neuroscience in these terms is that neuroscience starts from biological, electrochemical activities in your brain and your body, and the study of this biological system, when you study it, how you understand and you predict the human condition and human behavior. Where psychology does not start so much from biology, it starts from the mind. That's the main difference.
Yeah, interesting comparison, and very plastically you describe it. So you often said the brain is not actually made for business as we know. Can you explain it more about the brain and business relation?
So actually, our brain does everything, right, for us. Everything that we do, all your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions, your behaviors, your dreams, your hopes, your fears, your relationships and bonding with other people, with brands, with your family, everything that we are is in our brain. So when I state that maybe we are not approaching the brain well in business, I'm actually talking about an idea of creating more business that it is brain friendly, because unfortunately it is not so brain friendly. What do I mean is that by not understanding how the brain works, we were approaching decision making and human beings in a wrong way, creating problems. One wrong way, for example, is that we used to think that emotions are bad for decisions. Right? So we say even this to our school, to our students at school. Don't be emotional, because if you are emotional, you take wrong decisions.
Use your brain only.
Right.
Always.
Brain and heart. This. So now we understand that emotions form the basis, the foundations of all our decisions. Actually, if you look in the brain, you cannot find any moment in our lives that emotions are not on. Right? I might not feel them, I might not be aware of them, but the emotional parts of the brain are always on. So now, talking about brain-friendly management, it's not so much the question, should I use emotions or no? The question is, which is the right emotion that will lead me to the right decision? So you see how science, revealing how the brain works, helps us understand better how to make the correct decision.
Yeah, you're right, because usually we remember the situations where we have emotions related with emotions, and these situations and messages actually last maybe until the life. And you actually started answering the next question that I want to ask you. What is one surprising truth that you have discovered in your researches, because you research over 9,000 brains, how they react to different messages? So what is surprising truth that you have discovered in these researches that you would like to convey to the leaders, let's say, in their leadership?
Thank you for the great question. So something came to mind. I will try to give one example for neuromarketing, so how we use neuroscience for marketing and consumer behavior. As you mentioned, I have one example for neuroleadership or the application of neuroscience in leaders. So for neuromarketing, we have done really more than 300 studies around the world. I think it's 350 now, with various devices. We use electroencephalogram, this thing that you wear on your head, and eye tracking and wearables. And we do studies in a lab, but we also do studies in real shops. So we wear to people these devices and we tell them, go to the supermarket or go to the shop. One of the things that surprised me, and I think that it shows how important it is to do the research always and not have assumptions, is this old idea that if you want to place your product in the supermarket shelves, you have to do it on the eye level.
Yeah, that's a standard.
Absolutely, opinion. In merchandising, right?
Yeah.
So we found that this is actually not true. In what way? When your brain is in a task mode, so you really actively search for something, your brain will really search fast various locations within your visual field, and other things are more important than eye level. Your packaging, if you have any specific message, how much space you have on the shelf. So these things are
Colors
important.
Probably.
Right, exactly. So these things are important. But when you are not interested in a specific product category, so you go through beers and you're not thinking of buying beer, so your brain is not actively searching or trying to find something, then your eyes tend to focus in the middle of the visual field. Not so much eye level, in the middle. Why middle? Because if you think evolutionary, when your eyes focus in the middle, there is equal distance from various aspects. So if something happens, the eyes can go fast. So it's, let's
security
say,
reason.
Bravo, it's the low risk location. Yeah. So that was very interesting, because even today people are paying more to put their brands on eye level, and that's, as I said, is not so important. So this was a very interesting finding, as well as one more. Now we talk about phygital stores, like combination of physical and digital. So you visit, let's say, a bank branch, and it has screens and digital interaction. So it's a combination of physical shop and digital experience. It's called phygital. And we found out that actually most of the times, and this we did in many countries around the world, from Dubai to Austria, that actually these screens and this digital experience by itself is not liked by the brain. Because, sometimes people say, hey, amazing, let's make a wall to be fully a screen because it's flashy and it's interesting. But actually, again, when you go to a bank, you want to pay your bills, you want to give an application for a loan, you want to go out. It's not like you browse through a shopping center, you know. And when again your brain is in a task mode, many times these flashy screens make problems for your brain. It makes distractions. So we are constantly asking our clients to be very careful where to put this kind of screens or interaction, and especially the content. The content matters. Now, when it goes to leadership, one of the things that really surprised me is the importance of emotional empathy. Now, we have different types of empathy, right? One, it's called emotional empathy, which is when I cry when you cry, right? When we share emotions. And I found out that actually the more you go higher in the levels of a company, the more you go to top management, this emotional empathy is more important. Because, you know, we have this myth that the more you go up in a company, you have to be even more logical or even more... Right, like a robot and like very, very strict and very clean of... It's the opposite. The more you deal with people, because when you enter a company, you deal with what you are specialized, right? You are an intern, so do you know programming or do you know marketing planning? You do more the work, specialized work. But the more you go up and you become a manager, middle manager, senior manager,
people, different occupations.
Then other people do the work. You manage, you lead. And this is why emotions are even more important.
I agree fully with you. You just nicely compacted the dots. And artificial intelligence, we will come to that, actually can replace IQ.
Right.
And we cannot compete in IQ with artificial intelligence, but emotional intelligence, social intelligence, actually what will be specific for humans. At least I hope it will be like that in future.
Absolutely.
So when it comes to artificial intelligence, how do you see artificial intelligence influence or let's say implementation in neuroscience? Is it useful, and how it can be combined?
Yes, absolutely. We are already using AI to train models of developing this pattern recognition of the devices that we use, so in the data part. But I think what is very interesting is that AI will help a lot with diagnostics. The way that you hold your phone, the way that you type on your laptop, the way that you move the steering wheel in the car. When you sit in the car, your seat, the car seat will collect data for your heartbeat and pressure and the way that you put your body. And all this data will be feeding models that will detect if you are tired, if you are very angry and stressed, if you are focusing on your driving. And you will get messages. Already some cars, this is called driving management systems, so already some new models of cars have cameras that detect eye movement, so they can see if you are looking in front outside in the road or if you are looking down maybe on your phone. And then you get a beep, you get an indication, hey, please pay attention. Or you're too stressed, you're moving the steering wheel. And how does the system know? It knows because it has traced for months how you move your steering wheel and connected with other data. And then it will tell you, listen, I think you're too tired. Please stop and have a break. Or you're too angry and you will cause an accident. So everything around us will collect biometric and neurometric data that will help us understand this mental and emotional state. Because up to now, with what we called psychology before, you needed a therapist or a psychologist maybe to complete a questionnaire or to have a conversation, and this person to try to assume, to diagnose maybe what's happening in your
through
brain.
talks,
right?
And now through body language.
So you know, it's like many decades ago, you would go to the cardiologist, and you will say to the cardiologist, you know, I came for my yearly checkup. And the cardiologist will say, okay, fill in this questionnaire and let me discuss with you, and then I will tell you how is your heart. And they'll say, are you crazy? Please, I want you to, with ultrasound or with the specific device, measure my damn heart. Don't ask me questions, see what is happening inside my heart. It's the same with the brain. The brain is another organ. It's like the spleen, like the lungs, like the heart. So I think it will come a time where we will look at the past a little bit terrified how we we're making assumptions about my emotional and my mental state just by discussion or about with questionnaires. This will be a thing of the past. We will study, we will test, and we will diagnose what's happening in us with neuroscience, not with discussions. Because discussions, unfortunately, cannot reach what's really happening in the brain.
And sometimes they are not revealing the truth, because
most of the times, if not all,
it's not true.
Right.
It's most of the times fake discussions that
exactly.
person pretends
absolutely
what is not.
And we pretend to ourselves. It's not. Sometimes I want to lie, let's say consciously, but many times we even lie to ourselves, because evolutionary speaking, the part of the brain that discusses, and let's call this the narrative self, the storytelling part of the brain, it's not the same as with the experiential part of the brain. So the parts of the brain that really live this specific second, receive all the inputs from the environment, crunch this data, and then decide what to do. So these two parts are separate.
And you catch the second one,
bravo,
the hidden one that psychologists cannot discover.
Exactly.
And it's interesting that you said that actually everything, our body language, practically it can be recorded through some sensors, movements, and translated via algorithm.
Yes.
Describe your mood, what the situation in which you are.
And predict your behavior.
And predict your behavior,
Which is
and warn you if this behavior is not, let's say, behavior that it is preferable or you like to be.
Even your voice, the way that we talk, not the words we say, but the frequency of our vocal cords when we speak, the way that the vocal cords move for the air to become sound, the way that they move reveal emotions and mental state. So, if you call a friend and you say, hey, how are you? And the friend says, very good. You say, no, that's not very good. You use very good as words, but the way that it sounds, the color, it doesn't say this. So imagine you are at home and you start talking to your kid or your significant other, your life partner, or at work, you have a meeting. Imagine now with emotional voice analysis technology, we can tell you before you know that you are going to have a fight, because we understand through the frequency that anger or dissatisfaction or confrontation starts measuring up, increasing. I say, hey, stop, Philip. If you continue, most probably you will fight.
Change the topic.
Yes, or leave the room, go for a walk.
Yeah, that's very, very interesting. As we're discussing, I find it very useful. It will be in future, and maybe prevent some conflicts in the companies.
Hope so,
even broader.
Hope so.
Can you share with us, let's say, a real success story, a moment when by applying neuroscience, you create a measurable difference before and after?
Many examples. One that comes into mind is a series of studies, because usually when I have a client for neuromarketing, my experience shows that when they see results from neuromarketing, they really use neuromarketing for a long time. So most of my clients are 3-4 years with me, even more, which is fantastic by itself. It shows that they really trust and they see results. But one example that comes into mind is with a retailer of electronics, and home appliances and all this, where we found that their ads were not having the very positive brain response from the female population and younger generations. So when we were measuring their TV advertisements with these devices, the brains of mainly men and, let's say, middle-aged were fantastic, but female and younger not so much. So we did extensive studies and trials to understand how to create ads that excite and engage more these people. When we found what really we thought will make a difference, they implemented. We measured the ads before and after, and the improvement was amazing. So indeed, we found how to approach and talk and engage the brains of different segments of the population, especially for specific products that were for this, of course.
Actually, you should create a positive emotion that will trigger customer to buy the product or services.
Absolutely. And first we start with attention. Are you looking at the things that you should be looking? So eye tracking, where your eyes are moving. And then when you spot the right element, is your brain positive, liking it? Or is it easy? We have another measurement, Philip, which is called cognitive load. We measure really how much your brain suffers to decode data. Is it too much information? Is it something that the brain didn't expect, so it's kind of revolting? Hey, what is this? And
confusing.
Right, exactly. Confusion is the right word. So we measure confusion. And we can make the message very simple and direct.
Yeah,
no?
Because sometimes you're right, marketing messages are confusing and not clear.
We want to say too many things in a short time. And
unnecessarily most
yes.
of that
exactly.
data.
And we create a mess. That's the problem.
So which practical tools, routines, small changes leader can start making today to better align with how people think and feel, so to help him in making decisions like marketing campaign, product design?
So I wrote a whole book about that with Professor Alexandros Sagogios. We wrote a book called Neuroscience for Leaders. It has been translated in many languages, and it's in its second edition. We're very happy of how the world embraced our idea. And our idea, our main model, which we called brain adaptive leadership model, we are trying to explain to leaders that there are 4 important pillars or group of processes in your brain that you have to be very careful of and work on them. The first is cognitive processes, analytical processes, opinions, what you know, how you reach decisions, the process of thinking, right? So it's very important to understand the strategies of your brain when it takes decisions, to recognize and to change it if necessary. The way that you collect data and you focus on data. So this is very important aspect. Let's call it the analytical part of the brain. The second is, as we said, emotions or motivation. What motivates you in life? What makes you wake up in the morning and go to work and want to talk to people and change things or achieve more? So you have to constantly try to understand what makes you tick and also other people, and try to improve it in order to create better motivation, better, if you want, passion and this commitment, engagement. Third is habits, behavior. These things that your brain does every day in order to save energy. So also it's important, we call it brain automations. You have to a little bit check for you and the others how to create an ecosystem that promotes the correct habits. Because sometimes we promote the wrong habits.
Yes.
Or we say, hey, listen, that's a strategy, that's analytics. This is why we should do it. But then we create a very complex and difficult process that the brain doesn't want to do. So also the implementation has to be easy, understandable, and encouraging every step. And the last is relationships. We have a social brain. We cannot do things without others. So we have to understand bonding. We have to understand warmth towards other people. We have to understand empathy, how we decode them. So these 4 things: analytics, emotions, habits, and relationships. These are the 4 pillars of great leadership.
And good leader, great leader, has to work on all 4.
Yes.
For himself or herself, but
correct.
also for
the
others.
You said it perfectly. We are not autonomous. Our brain is shaping and shaped by our interactions with our environment. And this is in the end what creates success.
So it comes to the next question actually that I prepare. What are these 3 fundamental skills or habits that align with how the brain works? So, in 2017-18, my lab, my business lab, back then it was in Belgrade, in Serbia, we decided to use these neuroscientific tools like electroencephalogram, not only to measure consumer brain, like in marketing research, but to use it for detecting leadership competencies. So to really take managers and employees, put them in electroencephalogram, eye tracking, and create tests that will reveal their strategies in key competencies. And we started with 3, and we are still one of the very few labs in the world. Now my lab is with Ernst & Young Greece, and with EY Greece, we serve EY clients all around the world, which is fantastic because we offer these services, both neuromarketing and neuro leadership, all around the world. Even we offer something that is called neurosafety all around the world. And we started measuring 3, I think, very important
leadership skills. The first one is empathy. We already mentioned empathy
several
a few times. For me, empathy is a strategic skill. This is why I don't like call them soft skills, because soft sounds not so important.
Not so necessary.
Right, like a luxury. It would be like to have it, but it's not. No, it's a strategic skill.
It's a must.
It's a must, exactly. It's a must. So we measure empathy. I think we need to work on empathy from school, from students at school and then in university. We do not really approach these things in a scientific, structured and a way that shows that it is important. So empathy. Second, which is very important now because of what happened with COVID and afterwards now with all this uncertainty, is resilience. And resilience is not, I don't care what's happening. Actually, this is apathy, and many times psychopaths have it. It's receiving bad news or some negative thing happens. Of course, you feel bad about it. The brain takes a hit. It experiences pain. But how fast do you return? You bounce back to fight for it. So this timing of bouncing back and also the pattern, does your brain bounces back like this or like this or like this, shows different leadership styles. So empathy, resilience, and the last one is mindset. And we have different mindset models. Most people know this very famous categorization of growth mindset and fixed mindset. But there are many others. So I think that empathy, resilience, and mindset are very important skills. I can add more creative thinking, finding new ideas out of nothing. I usually get excited and I break the podcast room just for you to know. So innovative thinking, risk taking, focus of attention, all these are very important skills also for the future. But these three, empathy, resilience, and mindset, I find absolutely necessary.
And what you said, actually, it means that you can measure and predict by measuring these three, to predict if some person is really has a potential for leader or does not.
True. And now, in the moment, we use it for personal development. So for you to have a diagnostic about yourself and about your team, and then to use coaching, training, and behavioral ways to improve it, because you can improve it.
Yes.
But in the future, I think it will be used for recruitment. Should I hire this profile of person or the other? Maybe it will be also used for kind of performance review, right? So did you improve or not? So I think that although now is personal development, the future will show many more ways of using these technologies and diagnostic tools.
You have recently participated in neuroscience training and conference organized by M6 Educational Center. How would you describe? Is it useful, this kind of trainings and conferences? How big impact these conferences have on our future leaders, or the leaders that are attending? They're already leaders, let's say. Or can you recognize in these conferences and training who has a potential and who is just manager?
So this is amazing question, and first of all, I want to say thank you to M6 for inviting me. It's not the first time I collaborate with M6, and they do fantastic work, and always I have great experience with the M6 people, but also with the participants. I'm always fascinated after my speeches or conferences or workshops, because not only I see in the eyes of people and in their faces, we call it emotional facial coding, right? Or their behavior of how much people are thirsty all around the world to understand through new ways or new sciences like neuroscience what makes them human. And this is extremely important now in the age of AI. It's even more important to understand what AI can do or it cannot do, or what it shouldn't do, because there's also, we have to decide what AI should not do, right? Because we have not done this in the past and we suffer for it. For example, we never discussed what social media should not be used for. And now we wake up 20 years later and we say, oh my God,
it's a mess.
Kids are addicted, you know? So we never stopped and did some kind of critical thinking what is good. I think we should do it now with AI. So I see their questions, their interaction in the workshop is so amazing. Yesterday in the workshop, it was such amazing interaction with the questions, with the opinions, with the stories, with the participation in the exercises, but also afterwards. Philip, it's amazing how many people connect with me on LinkedIn, ask me questions, they ask me for advice, they buy maybe the book, they come to other lectures of mine. So absolutely, meeting people either online or better face to face in order to discuss these things. And people understand that deeply inside they feel that still we have not cracked, or at least with previous sciences, human decision making, behavior, what influences us, what makes us us, how to understand human relations. So when they see what neuroscience is bringing, they get super excited, and I get again super excited.
And you get more motivated for the next time.
Exactly. Yes, that's very important. That's actually the most important.
When you have interaction with your audience, is the best thing. That shows you that you actually achieve what you come for.
Yes, the emotional satisfaction of exactly what you said is the best reward.
And you are learning, I guess, still even through the audience, by questions, their stories.
Most of the times, first of all, I never do the same training again, because the stories, as you said, their opinions, sometimes they ask me something that I realize by the question that I didn't explain it in the right way. Next time I need to explain it a little bit different.
And you put more,
Yes, or they tell me a story, they say, oh, this is a great story, I could use it next time to explain it better. Yeah, it's always learning, always learning.
As someone shaping the future of leadership, actually through science, what gives you a hope that new generation leaders will be better than previous one? Are they developing in the right direction? Because generations are different. Today's generation with my generation, previous generation, and these changes are much faster than in the past.
I think that I have high hopes for new generations. I mean, we all hear these complaints in companies when they recruit young people that they don't see them very loyal, or they don't see them very passionate, or they have a disengaged relationship with work. I think this is not the young generation's fault. I think it's our fault that we haven't found the right ways to engage their brains. Because when this young generation engages, they're better than us. Young generation, and I'm talking more about generation Z now, the ones that are have entered or are entering the workforce, they are ready to trust. They want empowerment. They don't believe so much in hierarchies. They want to be one. They are sick and tired by fakeness. This
speak
politeness,
one, do
right?
thing.
This politeness, or some kind. Exactly, the fact that sometimes we just put a social mask, and they are tired of all this. They want to go directly into the center of the topic and solve the problem. So I think that, of course, there are always problems and differences and gaps between generations. But I think instead of us complaining, we should approach this new generation in a better way, understand what makes them motivated, and really use the best out of them, because they have a lot to give. The young people that I have worked with, either in the university, my students, or at work, my colleagues, I am fascinated with how much they bring into the table. I think that they will create better companies.
Yes, you're right. I agree with you. And actually, I think you're right that we are not finding right way to motivate them and to give them the right approach to the organizations. And the organizations that can very fast close this gap will be the most successful in future.
Exactly.
And finally, Nikolaos, if you could leave our audience with one piece of advice at the end, one thing to reflect this conversation, what would it be?
Please, it's worth it to take the time, search, dive, explore how the brain works. It's a fascinating world of neuroscience. It makes us who we are. It makes the people around us who they are. So get excited about your brain. And of course, the brain is not swimming in nothingness, right? It's the brain, is the body, is the environment. We say the Holy Trinity: brain, body, environment. These all are interacting very closely with each other. So get fascinated about the brain. And the more you learn about the brain, the more you learn to love yourself and love others. And I think this is at the end the main message. Everything that we achieve in life is with others. So take care about your brain and take care about the brains of others, and the brain will take care about you.
I fully agree with you. The brain is the organ which is mostly unexplored so far, and we should put more attention and research on the brains. And finally, yes, you're very right that we should like and accept each other, ourselves as we are, because if you don't like yourself, you cannot like others, and then that's the reason for most of the conflicts. Thank you for having you today with us. It was pleasure and very nice conversation. For me, at least, very educational, I would say, and I will try to implement your suggestions. I hope it was the same for the audience. Драги гледачи, ова беше Николаос Димитриадис, еден од водечките умови на полето на Neuromarketing и Neuroscience, кои што слушнавте на што се работи. Верувам дека ќе го најдете корисно за примени во вашите компании, но и во нашите секојдневни животи. Thank you, Nikolaos.
Thank you for having me.
Again,
Great
I hope
question.
next time
Great
we will have another occasion, maybe in 1 year, 2 years, when
Would
you
love
come
it.
again.
I really had a great time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Ви благодарам за вниманието. Продолжете да не следите, да го следите нашиот подкаст на Facebook, Instagram и на Spotify.